I recently did a video talking about how budget laptop gamers are right at the back of the human centipede that is Nvidia's GPU lineup. An especially bad place to be at the moment, considering how Nvidia has just been going to town on the gas station sushi lately. The current crop of laptop 50 GPUs are hot garbage, and in that video I said that I wouldn't hold my breath that Nvidia would make any meaningful improvements to the laptop 5050. Well, it's finally available. I bought a laptop with a 5050 in it and, well, I may have been wrong. Maybe. But before we find out, today's video is sponsored by Be Quiet and their Prime Day sales. They've got over 70 items marked down over 20% or less. They've got the Dark Rock Elite for $115, or a Lightbase 600DX for $120. And aside from a bunch of other savings on AIOs and fans, now is an amazing time to get some Be Quiet quality power supply action. So let your PC drink some good, clean, Be Quiet power this Prime Day. The deals are available on Amazon and Newegg, links down below. Our laptop RTX 5050 is in this, which is a new HP Victus. Victus is HP's budget gaming lineup, and the only way that I know that it's new is because it says so on the box, because build quality and shell wise, this is identical to the previous generation, which isn't great. Don't get me wrong, they're fine, but they're just so plasticky. It means that there's a lot of flex everywhere. Although in all fairness to it, the keyboard section gives pretty good. That doesn't feel bad. Honestly, I think my issues with the build qualities around these come from the nightmares that I still have about shattering the back off of one of these to get access to a RAM upgrade. Back panel osteoporosis aside, these also tend to not have the best displays in them, but I am a massive display snob, so your mileage may vary. And this one also has a 144Hz display in it, so it's likely better than the one I used before. We have a brand new Ryzen 5 chip in here. I don't understand the naming. This is what it's called. I can't remember any of those numbers. Now, the reason that I've been whinging about the build quality is because I want to get to the pricing of the 5050, and with a gaming laptop, the build quality is a relevant factor in that pricing. Well, this HP Victus cost 8,600 Canadian dollars before tax, which feels like a lot considering that you can buy higher tier laptops for less money with i7s and 4060s and stuff in them. Now, these laptops are on sale and laptop pricing is extremely fluid, so in a couple of months, I'm sure this 5050 based Victus is going to be quite a bit cheaper, but at the moment, it isn't cheaper. I mean, if you pay $100 more, you can get this Lenovo Legion with a 4070 in it. Although that is by a Best Buy seller, so you can't go get it in a store, but I feel like that's fine. So that 5050 better be real good. Quick side note, if you want to help support more purchases like this on the channel and let the world know that you are a loser, I almost I pointed at the wrong titty there, check out Dawid Does Tech Stuff merch with the link down below. With that, let's talk about the specs of the RTX 3050, because this is what caught me off guard. Okay, I just googled the specs again and I am now much less excited than I was in the previous frame. But the bit of news that tickled my pickle was the fact that they finally stepped up to 8 gigs of video memory. Now, a bunch of you are probably thinking, Dawid, you idiot, why are you excited about 8 gigs of video memory? Well, the 3050 had to make do with 4 gigs of video memory, so it feels like a huge step up from that. And they actually put a memory bus on the thing that is slightly wider than the eye of a needle, which is good. But the moment that you stop looking at the 8 gigs of video memory, it gets much less exciting very quickly. And I'm not just talking about the stupid Nvidia marketing thing that they do, saying that their GPUs are now 10 times faster than the previous generation because of their terrible frame gen technology that definitely doesn't add hundreds of milliseconds of input latency. And in this graph, they don't even tell you if it's a 4 or a 6 gig version of the 3050 that they're comparing it to, which makes a huge difference. No, the thing that untickles my pickle and makes it retreat deep into the depths of my body is this sheet. Now, I'm showing 2 sets of numbers here, and there's one of my hairs attached to it, ew. One of these columns is the core of the 4050, and the other column is the core of the 5050. Now, you don't need to be a mathematician to see the problem here, both these sets of numbers are exactly the same. This is really not something you want to see. This is bad. And it's not like the 4050 was a particularly 5-head GPU when it came out back in the day. It needs bigger numbers. NVIDIA, I don't even know what to say to you anymore. I'm sure people are saying many things in the comment section down below already. This is annoying, but hopefully the much more video memory and slightly bigger bus will give us enough more performance that this doesn't matter. And you know, there's more to a GPU than these numbers. Maybe the performance is fine. Let's find out. Oh, it's got the lamest power button. I want like a big old red metal button that has like a cover on it that you have to lift and then push down. My button perversion aside, the moment I fired the laptop up, I noticed there was a pretty big issue I needed to rectify before we could test it. Oh, I have to immediately tear it open. Luckily, I found the least destructive way to open it. You just gotta slowly slip in through the back. Once inside, I was really impressed to see 2 fans, and that cooling solution combined with the 200-watt power brick makes me think that our 5050 in here is quite a high wattage variant, which is exciting. But that excitement instantly evaporated when I saw the sticker on the SSD saying you need to replace it with HP spare parts. Not sure why that rubbed me up the wrong way. You're a laptop, you're not my RAM daddy, you don't get to tell me what RAM to use. Anyway, that's not the point of this video, let's add some RAM. So now that we have a RAM configuration that isn't going to slash the Achilles tendons of our laptop's gaming performance, we can start having a look at said gaming performance. Now I think context is really important, so we're going to start off the testing looking at this little Alienware, which has an RTX 4050 in it, the GPU that this laptop is replacing. Now again, with laptops, it's kind of difficult to isolate the performance of a single component because each laptop has a different hardware configuration in it and there isn't really getting around it, so bear that in mind. So with that, let's have a look at what the 5050 needs to beat. By a lot, hopefully. Now at CS2 at 1080p medium, I mean, this is honestly a CPU test more than anything, but it's interesting to see how well these laptops run esports titles, the games that a lot of people play. And here, our 4050 based little Alienware that is catching on fire as we speak handles it pretty well. This is very usable, it's good. So here we have a much clearer representation of what the GPU does performance-wise because we're getting about 100% utilization here with our 4050, and this version draws about 60 watts here. And with that, we're getting, you know, just under 70 frames per second. It dips down to 55 every now and then, but this is a usable 1080p medium experience on Cyberpunk here. This is actually a big step up over what the 3050 does with this game, but there is a previous video where I covered that, so go check that out if you want more detail on that pairing. Now, Stalker at 1080p medium settings with quality DLSS gives us a similar result to Cyberpunk, and you know, this is again playable. Like it is a usable experience even at medium settings. I mean, the game feels a little bit heavy at 60 frames per second, Stalker specifically, and it does dip further below that, but in a pinch, yeah, you could use this. Doom Eternal at 1080p medium is running very poorly, which in the previous video, the previous time I did this testing, the 4050 was the only GPU that managed to play it, and it played it pretty well. And you'll notice, looking at the footage of the previous time I tested this, the GPU is drawing about 60 watts, whereas now it's drawing in the mid-30s despite running at higher settings. That's very weird. Surely a game update and new drivers wouldn't cause this weird performance. Surely not. Well, I went back a day later to retest it, and suddenly the GPU was drawing a bunch more power and it was running way better again. So that was just a weird anomaly. Chalk it up to some Elma, I guess. But with that, let's move over to the new 5050. first, we're looking at CS2 running on the little 5050, and the first thing that I notice here, aside from performance, is the temperatures. Look at this, this is a gaming laptop. That second fan really is putting in some work, and the laptop isn't even that noisy. Now granted, here we're not drawing that much power, so this temperature may go up quite a lot later on, but that's already very impressive. Now in terms of frame rates, things are less impressive. We actually got a worse result from the little HP, but I think that a big part of that is the little AI5 or whatever that new Ryzen chip is called. I think it's kind of struggling here a little, which is a trend that even continues to Cyberpunk. Let's have a look. Now with Cyberpunk running at 1080p medium settings, the 5050 is drawing near to 70 watts. It occasionally gets to about 70 watts. Which answers the question of which wattage version we have of the GPU in here. But let's just take a moment. Look at the temperatures. It's in the mid-70s. This is a gaming laptop in max performance mode, and we're getting in the mid-70s temperature-wise. And it doesn't sound like a Banshee on heat. That is actually very impressive. That cooling solution doing a good job here. Having said that, I think one of the reasons that that is happening is because of the power draw on this Ryzen 5 thing we have in here. So that does help in terms of temperatures. And interestingly, despite this being a new 5 series CPU, it is seemingly bottlenecking our 5050 here a little bit. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's promising in terms of 5050 performance, or that CPU really needs an overclock. That might be a better way to look at it. Luckily, in the canned benchmark, the CPU didn't seem to be an issue, so we get a 100% GPU utilization result here. Where the 5050 dumpsters the little 4050. That is a much better result, but bear in mind there are some factors which are contributing to that big gap. The Alienware laptop feeds its 4050 about 60 watts, whereas the HP feeds its 5050 about 70 watts. Laptop GPUs are so annoying because that power draw has a huge impact on the result, which just adds so many extra variables that you need to think about when buying a laptop. I also tried some ray tracing at medium settings, which brought both of our RTX GPUs to their knees, but the 5050 handled it a little bit better. Whoa, we've got lots of Stalker frame rate happening. So this is 1080p medium settings that Stalker is happening at here. This is with DLSS quality because, well, this game doesn't really run well without it. But I actually think we have enough frame rate here to be able to run this with FSR native resolution. And with Stalker 2, we get our first shellacking. Stepping up from 66 frames per second to 103 is pretty big and makes a huge difference to the playability of the game. And interestingly, this is one of the games where the power draw between the two GPUs is the most similar. Yeah, it looks like UE5 is a pretty big fan of the 5050 over the 4050. With Doom the Dark Ages, we don't run into that weird Elma problem where we've got 10 frames per second. It's actually running really well at 1080p medium settings. This is with DLSS quality, and yeah, I mean, it's not the highest frame rate ever, but above 60 frames per second, the Dark Ages does feel really good. Very, very usable result here. And again, we're seeing very impressive temperatures and noise. It is so much cooler and quieter running than that Alienware laptop. It's not even a competition. Now, Doom the Dark Ages isn't quite as excited about the 5050 as Stalker was, where we see about a 23% increase in performance, which isn't nothing, but it is just 23% more than quite little. But importantly, what it does do is put you comfortably over the 60 frame per second barrier in these new games, which makes them a lot more playable. I would much rather be gaming in the 70s than the mid-50s. And then finally, with a video memory hungry game like The Last of Us running at 1080p high settings with no upscaling, that extra 2 gigs of video memory on the 5050 does really help. Going from the low 40s to mid 60s makes a huge difference to the playability. So the laptop 5050 might not represent a huge jump in performance over the laptop 4050, but it does bring the performance to the point where it's honestly very usable at 1080p, even in more demanding modern games, which isn't a terrible place for an entry-level laptop gaming GPU to be. And according to Tech Power Up's relative performance tool, which is useful for eyeballing stuff, it's ahead of the 4060 laptop card, which, you know, man. So with that, let me know in the comments down below if you think that's enough of a jump to make this card slightly less disgusting. I don't know, I'm curious to see what you think. Subscribe to the channel on the way down there, and until the next video, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.